Hey guys, this is the I Am Vanguard podcast here with Domino Paris, Simon, and Mark.
Yo,
Hello.
Hello.
So we have started a few minutes early, but let's get started. How was everyone's week?
Horrible.
Uh-oh.
Spectacularly fine.
Well, you went to
I
Hooters
am
yesterday.
playing. I'm playing Dragon Age, and that means I'm having a mediocre time, but still enjoying it. It's like eating McDonald's.
Mm,
And Mark went to Hooters yesterday without me,
I
so.
did. I did. I got
Bro,
listen,
damn,
listen,
bro. Where was that invite?
listen. I was not the one handing out invites. I don't invite people when I'm not the invitee.
are the wings still good?
Oh
Yes.
yeah, their wings are
I'm
good.
gonna be
Are
entirely honest. Hooters has the best blue cheese on planet Earth. I've never
Oh,
had blue cheese that was as good as Hooters blue cheese. Oh my god.
I never eat that, so.
I got
Okay.
to play Vanguard at Hooters
Oh, yeah.
while eating blue cheese.
That's what Howard used to do.
nice.
Pretty sick.
Listen.
Did you teach the waitresses how to play? They're like, ooh, what's that?
No. No, I'm gonna be honest, bro. I was there for a reason. I was there to eat.
Gabriel, that's stereotyping. Come on now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, I don't like teaching everybody. It's not for everybody. You know what I mean? But
Agreed.
I'm more pissed off about the fact that your imitation voice was literally a horrible game, enough to make me claw myself out.
Okay, so I think Gabe was participating in the construction cup and I participated in locals at the same
yep.
time.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And he
the
went second.
construction
Yeah.
cup. Construction cup was interesting because, like, obviously everyone does things last minute. So I was like, are people even gonna participate? But I was building an Invaldio deck, which I ordered online.
Mhm.
But then I didn't get my stuff in the mail. So luckily, one of our local peeps, she was kind enough to allow me to borrow her deck, um, to play. And she may take it to Georgia next week. So I got a chance to play test it and play her build, which is really good because I don't have access to some of the cards that she has in there. But yeah, I came in
I
second
like that
place.
deck. I
Yeah.
Yeah,
like that
in
deck.
second
It's
place.
easy to
I made
play, really straightforward strategy.
Yeah, I made a few misplays along the way, but I learned as I went, and then I came in second place. I got sacked, but it was a
I'd
fun
say the
game.
most difficult thing about Impaldio's piloting, because the deck builds are really straightforward. It's the piloting where it is. You need to know where to take the damage or when or how
Right.
to use your gauge against certain matchups.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or you just heal twice, go up to 6 gauge, you don't care about your matchup anymore, and you go, I'm going to ask you for a perfect guard for every column. Just, I don't want to count. Just show me the Sentinel Shield.
basically, yeah. That's pretty much how that sounds about right. What about you, David? You play. So we had regular locals next to the constructed cup. What were you were playing again?
I was playing Blangdemeyer, but all my games actually finished like within like what 10 minutes. So there was always like 20 minutes to spare. So I actually played Zorga as a second deck. I got to test two decks for regionals. Blangdemeyer was pretty smooth. Even though I'm running a very whacked version of Blangdemeyer, because I'm running a lot of like toolboxing type stuff. It ran pretty well. I think the only hard matchup was when Peter Mush King rushed me. But other than that, I won like most of my other games except for the guy that OT sacked as well. So, but Blangdemeyer itself is really good. Zorga was also running really well yesterday too. Um, the tech card that I've been running has been really helping out for Zorga. It's
Mm.
the Counterblast, Soul Blast one. If it's Alchemy Magic, you can retire two. If it's a regular order played, you can retire one and call one at the same grade. That card's like really good.
That one's alright. Do
Yeah.
you play Do you play Mythiarch Habitat in the
Yeah,
deck?
yeah, I run as a one of.
Okay.
Yeah.
So other than that,
Uh.
I mean, my testing went really well. So those are the two candidates I am gonna be thinking about for regionals, but that's gonna be for later on topics. Since our main topic is actually pretty big, we're actually gonna skip the tournament results because there's nothing special. If you guys want to know, Levy Jess is still doing good. Raziel's still doing good. That was the results.
The
Yep.
The difference from the last week is being that Varga is finally starting to top
Yeah.
again, but that was naturally going to happen. People
Yep.
figure out the balance of the deck.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that I think just to add a short small note on
Of course.
there, I have been doing a lot of, I wouldn't say research, right? Because it's not like I'm searching aggressively for these things, but like that Lavidris is such a good deck.
It
Like
is a really good deck.
Yes,
it is
every
so
single
good.
grade 3 in the deck converts into 2 draws, and they
Yeah,
convert into 10 shields separately for 2
yeah,
circles. It's
it's
strong.
so good. Yeah,
It's probably the first, like, it's probably one of the first true tempo decks in D series. Like I was mentioning last
Mhm.
week, it's pretty strong. I like
yeah,
that deck a lot.
absolutely, absolutely.
All right. So today's main topic is actually going to be something interesting while we wait for set four results. It is going to be competitive and casual vibes and the difference between them and how we see it. Kind of long title, but I'll figure it out.
I
So,
mean, if you really want to shorten it down, I think the better way to say it is that it comes down to the casual and the competitive mindset, the
yep.
differences between the two. And then, a lot of players will naturally just meet in the middle of those two and what we feel about that.
But did you guys
Yeah.
want to kind of get started on the topic? Because I know that this is going to be almost an hour conversation, is how I feel like.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll lead off the topic and lay it out
yeah.
All
then.
right, let's go.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so in my opinion, between competitive and casual mindsets and the ways we look at the game, a lot of the minutia, a lot of the subtlety can be lost in each side fighting each other, as we have obviously seen from like the most popular infighting slash turf war is Yu-Gi-Oh! So we are going to try to avoid a lot of that toxicity because a lot of really good players and card games are generally somewhere in the middle, or they have fences set up to know, like, what part of them is casual and what part is competitive and stuff like that. So I will use myself as an example to lay out the topics and then we can all elaborate on it as we see fit.
Yeah,
Like for myself, I used to play a lot of G series really, really competitively. And, I had all the meta decks. I had Chrono Jet Dragon after Next Stage came out. Because before then, I was like, Chrono Jet's a new clan. It doesn't have any real clan identity yet.
Middle
And to be
finger.
fair, it didn't have clan identity after Next Stage either. But they gave them Next Stage, the strongest stride we had ever seen up to that point. It was a stride so powerful it brute forced its way through anybody's hand and just killed them. That card reverberated so much they created G Guardians just to fight cards like that. So of course I was playing Chrono Jet, and admittedly I became pretty toxic back then. To me, it was a win all or lose all mentality. You're either the best or you're the rest. Especially when Time Leap came out, and we had a bunch of people in our community like playing their own versions of the deck. And when I had believed that my version was just superior to all of theirs, I was pretty bad about it. I was like, why are you playing this? What's the whole point of this? And they're like, well, I find this card more fun. And as I said before, I was pretty toxic back then. And to me, I was like, well, how are you having fun if you're not winning, right? But that's a really good way to juxtapose the perspective of like of what, in my opinion, a toxically competitive player. In more recent years, especially after the fallout of the reboot into V, and especially after V's reboot into D, I've slid a lot more into a casual mindset because if you're toxic on at least toxic on the competitive side and you try to impose those opinions and oppress people with them, you're taking fun away from somebody. And that's just something we should not do as players in a social game. And that brings me over to how I am now, where I am really, really casual now. And when it
Well,
comes to the go ahead, Gabe.
no, no, I was just gonna mention like what I kind of don't want to give an impression on because I've talked about this. We even talked about this, in our own time too. But I think a huge stipulation when it comes to being competitive, I feel like through the years it's been like a taboo thing to mention if you're competitive in Vanguard because people really have this
Well,
toxic image of
I was actually gonna get onto that as well.
but yeah, but I was more saying like being competitive. doesn't necessarily mean, doesn't necessarily mean you have to win no matter what.
No,
I mean, some
no, it
people,
doesn't.
it's
Like
more of the behaviors that
I
come
know
with
what
that.
I know what you're saying. I was gonna get onto that as well. Because,
Yeah,
like I was saying earlier, in my opinion, the best place to be is in the middle. Because, during V especially, I slid a lot more into the casual mindset, especially when Excel 2 came out. Because Excel 2 was kind of like the signal flare that Bushiroad shot up, where they're like, we honestly don't care about game balance. Or at least they're not thinking about game balance. You can't look at something like Excel 2 and say that is a balanced mechanic. You ride, and instead of being a 1-4 or a -1 exchange overall, because it generates the gift, but the gift doesn't draw. That's why Protect was so strong at the beginning. It was a 1-for-1 on the ride, and it gave you a very potent card. And so that was sort of like where I started sliding a little bit back because I was a Force player, and the game sort of just went to crap because of Gurguid and bluish frames. And so D series is, I think, where I've landed in the middle now that I've been on both sides. I think that D series, Bushiroad creating the overtrigger makes it so that no matter how hard we try, no game can be truly, truly competitive. I mean, the slot machine aspect of Vanguard already made that hard, but you just sort of account for variance, right? And a lot of good and subtle play in Vanguard came from trades, came from predictions, came from I know what's going to kill me, I know what the likelihood of it's going to be, so should I plan for that or should I plan for something else instead? Basic trading math. And overtriggers sort of completely overtake that because no player really has control over an overtrigger. And when it does appear, for the most part, they are so powerful and so potent that they completely swing the game in one direction for that turn.
yeah.
Now,
Well,
that's other discussion. Like going back to it, like being competitive and being casual, there's a way for both sides of this to be toxic, which is usually why I try to say, like, we need to be somewhere in the middle. We need to make compromises with it. Because being competitive, because I still am competitive to a certain point, is that I believe that being competitive in a non-toxic way is sort of like, how I look at it as I seek mastery. I like to be good at this game. I like to know that I pilot decks well. I like to know I construct decks well. I like to practice, and whether I win or not, like I can at least say, oh, well, I did the best that I could. Now let's pick up the pieces, find out what I did wrong, and fix that, right? And then
mm,
there's the casual side of it, where, some of these people don't really care about deck building. And some of these people don't really care about like winning or topping tournaments, right? But they're also just there to like play their favorite card game. They want us to have the same kind of moments they have in the anime and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, there's room for every kind of those players here too. Like it's a social card game. All of us come together on the table and we both find a way to have fun. That's the way it should be, at least.
I mean, really, what I always say, like the way I define casual versus competitive, and I'm not even going to talk about the toxic aspect of it because I don't want that to be the focus of it. I just more of like, me personally, I don't think that you can be both. I think it's like mixing oil and water, in my opinion. But you don't have to take it to any extreme to both sides. Like for me, if you're so the way I define it in my words is if you're a casual player, you simply just want to experience the card game, whether it's winning or losing. And I think that when it comes to a casual player, I think as long as they're able to if they're as long as they're able to perform their deck the way they intended or plan to, I think for them they're satisfied, whatever the outcome of the game is, as long as they're able to kind of fulfill their deck as they plan to, that's usually fun. As far as experience the game and competitive minded players, they just tend to make choices like card choices, deck choices, kind of based on meta and what they think could give them the best possible outcome. But also, at the same time, sometimes you can be competitive, but then you choose to be competitive utilizing decks that maybe could be off meta, but then you want to take on the challenge of trying to make some kind of viability with that to the meta. So I think it's just more of the mindset as you approach your deck choices and what kind of outcome you kind of desire. But personally, I just don't think you can be both. I think it's one or the other, but it doesn't have to be an extreme toxic way. It's just more of because even myself I consider myself a competitive minded person, but even through the years, I played Dark Irregulars back when they had their first line of support and they were really terrible, but I still found some viability in it that I kind of want to just try and push and see how far I can get in tournaments with it. And, and if a deck is just really not good, based on later support or new meta, I kind of just put it to the side and move on to something else. I think that's usually where you start seeing, I think that's really where you start actually understanding where you kind of are when it comes to your card choices. But that's how I kind of define it myself personally.
Well, sure, but like it's like I was saying earlier, right? I think you're somewhere in the middle for that aspect. It's not necessarily mixing the two together, but it's understanding like what sort of mindset do you go in with. Like a good example is I love playing Bastion right now, not in the set 5 meta. I like playing Bastion. I play playing Raziel, and Raziel is an easy tier 1 5 deck. It's not tier 1 for sure. But I still like playing that deck. I like playing it well, and I don't mind playing it into challenges, like you said, that should be a lot tougher for me. But I play because I like to play. I play because I like to see if I can snag the win out, regardless. Like I feel like I'm a very competitive minded player, but a lot of my deck choices and the decks I like to play tend to just go into like what my favorite decks are. And so in that aspect, I think I'm really casual. Like I don't own Shoujo Doji and I never had, right? That's an aspect of it. Or another example is I don't play Varga, even though I own it, because I don't like the linear gameplay that Varga offers me. I like having options, I like having lines of play, and so that for the most part, Varga just sits in my box at home. So where
Well,
would you put me on that aspect? I'm
well,
curious about that.
the question I would say is because you mentioned Bastion, because I know Bastion got a new support card, but if a certain deck that you would say is your favorite, if it has been getting support for a while and the meta is shifting around, are you still willing to play it in a more higher leverage environment?
Absolutely. I took it to our shop challenge and it won every game that it played in.
Sure. Some people you may think that too. Some people don't.
No,
Uh,
I understand that some people don't, but what I am saying is I don't necessarily agree with the notion that you have to pick one camp over the other. There are aspects about a person that can be really competitive, but there can also be aspects about that person that can be really casual, right?
it's not really a conscious choice that you make. It's just natural. It just comes naturally. It's
And
kind of
that's
like
why I
you,
ask you,
kind of like you're
like,
picking red or blue.
and sure, and that's why I ask you, it's like, what camp would you put me in personally? You've played a few
Uh,
games with me,
well, obviously the competitive side.
exactly,
Yeah.
right?
So
But
so
I
it's not
still like
just not both.
taking. Hmm.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's fine. Like and say it's not. It doesn't mean that you're gonna pick something based on. Sometimes people have reasons for that, or they just play something and see how far they can get with it, and you're still focused on optimal play. You understand ins and outs of it, and then when it comes to the conversations you have about your decks, I could tell you right now, there's a different conversation that's usually had with a casual player versus a competitive player when it comes to their decks. Like there's a lot of
I
nuances to it. But go
I
ahead,
think
Mark.
that like really there's like I think there's three camps of players, right? I think there's the casual player who's like, I'm gonna play whatever I want. I don't really care if I go 1-3 at locals and whatever. I just like playing the game. What I like to call, and this is not like a derogatory term, but I like to call the locals hero. So that is like you might not always play the best deck, but you're always trying to win or play optimally to give yourself the best chance to win. So that
Hmm.
would be like basically the people who were competitive and then like got jobs or just don't feel the same pull to play the game anymore, things of that nature, right?
You bastard, you're
Hey, what's
talking about
up?
me.
I'm talking
No,
about
he's
me
talking about
too.
me.
I'm talking
He's talking
about
about
all
me,
of us.
David.
Strays.
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Catching
First of all,
strays.
I'm
Hey,
talking
hey,
about
hey,
all of
hey.
us. That is
We all know I am the most important person in this room right now.
But and then you've got your actual competitive players that are every day they're like testing and they're trying to find the best deck for this event and like they don't care if they don't like the play style, they're just going to play the deck because it's the best deck. um I think that really once you kind of start to think in those three camps instead of those two, you really start to find more you can kind of fit more players into those 3 boxes more so than like those 2
Mhm.
boxes.
I
Because like
definitely think
Yeah,
Mark put it
I agree
really
with Mark
well.
on that.
I think
with
the
your
There's a
three
lot of
locals,
nuance
boxes, yeah.
involved.
I think the three
yeah,
Yeah.
boxes
with
really fit well under
yeah,
categories.
Yeah.
like with your locals heroes, I think that a lot of players fall into that category.
Yep.
Um, and they just think they're casual. But if I see you like constantly tweaking your deck every week to like because you haven't been able to win a locals in a while, like to me, you're a locals hero. Like you want to do well. If there are people that go to our locals and they legitimately will go every week with this garbage deck and they don't care. They're just literally there to play Vanguard and have fun. And like that is like
You are
the
talking about me.
casual. No, I'm not talking about you. Uh, there are players like that, and they are the best people to play against at locals because like you can't be mad if you lose to them because they're like they genuinely just love the game.
You
And
just
if you
laugh with
beat
them on the jank that they
exactly
bring.
like I've seen there's a guy at our locals that plays he plays what was it called he plays Spino Marquee and like he doesn't
Okay.
expect to win. The Dino
The, the
Dragon
promo
Empire.
boss.
Oh,
Yeah, the
that's a
promo
deck.
boss. Yeah, it's a deck.
Yes,
It's
it's a
actually a
Dino Dragon
it's a
deck.
really fun deck.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah, that deck's awesome.
he plays that deck, and there are some times where he just goes like 1-4 at locals, and one week he went like 3-1, and he was like over the moon. But he really didn't care that he did well. He just enjoyed playing the deck, and had a positive experience. And I think that it is important for uh, each group, I think, to take from another one, right? So I think for like a locals hero, because I think a lot of times like the locals hero level players or those like category of players are the ones that are the most miserable because they don't want to play competitively or they can't play competitively, right? So when they don't do as well as they feel they should, it's kind of upsetting for them or they get kind of tilted. But if they took a little bit from the casuals and just let themselves enjoy the game more instead of worrying about doing well all the time, I think it would benefit them mentally. And then I think that the tryhards, like the actual competitive players, if they took from the locals heroes, because the thing about locals heroes that's interesting is that oftentimes that's where I find for many games that the innovation in deck building comes from them and not from per se the competitive players. I've seen a lot of times when I played Magic competitively. I've seen it when I played Yu-Gi-Oh competitively. When
Oh
I
man,
played
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Kajudo, all these games where a competitive player would play against just a random local, and they would be playing this one card or these 2 copies of this card, and it would completely kind of change the direction of how the deck could be built, and it ended up becoming the way that people play the deck from that point on. So I think that it's always important to go, I think, a step back in the boxes, right? And I think that for casual players, you could really take from either of the other two. There's no real reason to not, right? Everyone could always stand to like, dip their toes in a little bit, see if they like how it feels competitively. But the thing is that when they look in the competitive players, that's where the casuals are like, oh, I can play my deck better. I can learn these things. I can learn how to do these combos. I can learn. Casual players sometimes don't know about magic numbers. They can learn magic numbers from the competitive players. So I think that each kind of box of player really has something to give to the other boxes. And I think that a lot of times goes underutilized for a lot of players.
No, yeah, it's like I was saying earlier, compromises,
Yeah,
meeting in the middle and stuff like that. Like
absolutely.
competitive, take it from me at least as someone who very, very much loves and is good and plays fighting games. And I don't do rank battles. I don't do locals. I don't do like maybe the next time I go to Evo, like I would think about going for pools. But for the most part, I just like playing to see how good I can be and how much I can sharpen myself and refine myself. That's sort of
Yeah.
an attitude I take over to a lot of the competitive games that I play, whether I'm in tournament or not. Like, because the way I look at it is, why does it matter how well I do good in a tournament when I am just here to keep on sharpening myself and mastering myself? If I win the tournament, okay, cool, that's nice. But I'm there to play the game. I'm there for experience. I'm there to train and constantly get better where I can.
See,
Gotcha.
that's the I'd say that's a it's interesting you bring up locals hero, Mark, because I think like because I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Because I don't really agree with the notion that it's like you're that you do both. I think locals hero. Well, I think it's more semantics, but I think locals hero is a good way to kind of put
Mm.
it. But I think locals hero is where because naturally, when you go to a card shop and you're participating in local tourneys, you will interact with people of kind of like both spectrums. But I think that's where people start shifting a little bit more to one side because I think there are levels to everything, right? Just because you say you're competitive does not mean you represent the quote unquote meta slaves or
No,
however
yeah,
you
there's
want to call it.
nuances.
Correct. Yeah, there are levels to it, but like I think like maybe a cat like I think Mark touched on it too, touched on one good point where like a casual player could just have a good clean game against a more competitive person that they've never had played against before and they end up opening their eyes to maybe a different way to play a deck that they haven't seen or like maybe they get inspired by that person and it was a good interaction between them and then all of a sudden now they are excited to go and actually start looking into how to improve their play and everything. And that's where you kind of start drifting over to that because I think it's more of the process of how you take on the game. Because usually, for me, the way I kind of view it, like a casual player, they kind of just maybe they go for some janky stuff, like fun stuff, and as long as they can pull it off once, to them, that made their day and everything like that. But no matter what deck you play, if you're constantly like thinking of how to optimize it, how to play optimally with it to the best of the ability, to me, that's you're leaning more to a more competitive mindset because that's more of the competitive mindset. Versus a casual player may have a different type of process to it. But
Sure.
I think the locals hero is a good way to kind of put it. 'Cause it's more of like the interaction with it, but then I think eventually you start leaning towards one side or the other. And especially like if you're going to like a regionals or something, how much do you really care about like your choice or how much leverage you put on yourself for it? You're like, I'll just play this and have fun with it. I'll play Bushi King and say, fuck it, I'll do
No,
this.
yeah,
Or
like
are you
that's
gonna
sort of like what I was saying
really
earlier,
do
right,
that?
Gabe? I feel like you latched onto the wrong part of the things I was saying to lead us off, where I was giving really extreme examples of both sides of the spectrum, because I don't think every competitive player is like how I was when I was playing Chronojet Next Stage, right? Like what I'm saying is that a lot of people that are really competitive and really cool to play with find a middle ground to meet where, you're not going up to a guy and saying, "Hey, you need to play the deck like me because I play the best version of the deck, so you're just bad." Rather, it should be you go up to someone, they're playing their own card choices, and then you ask, "Oh, why are you playing that?" And then they give you the reasoning, and you're like, "Okay, neat." It's like it's what they choose to do to have fun, and it's like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, no, that's really what I'm saying. So
Yeah, like I said, I don't. I think that I feel like the wrong part of my conversation, my examples were latched onto. I've always advocated that you can always be someone that wants to sharpen yourself. You can always be someone that wants to improve and get better. But the toxic level of doing that is using the newfound strength, your new level of skill, and then using it to impress and oppress other people. Just because you know this is the best option doesn't mean the other guy wants to play the best option, if that makes sense for the example, right?
right, that wasn't really more what I was getting at, but I mean, it's still I agree with the point.
Okay. Yeah, because like you focused, it seemed like you had focused pretty hard on like, the extreme aspect of competitive play for a little bit. And I was like, I just want to make sure that's not what I was saying.
Yeah, no, I hear it. It was more like because every time it's not like just with you. It's also like when I hear this talked about, that keeps getting mentioned. But I'm like, it's not just that. It's just more of how you process the game. That's really more how I view it.
Sure. And my opinion, like I stated earlier, is I feel like there's middle grounds to meet here. There's nuances, right? Like I would consider you and I to be pretty competitive because we're always trying to like sharpen and tune our decks and ourselves and stuff like that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but if a kid comes up or a person comes up and they're playing, let's say, as a pretty easy example, they're playing the anime version of a deck. It's using that really bad deck list that Bushiro puts out. This is what the anime characters played in this episode,
I
right?
mean, are they running an OT? That's all that matters, really.
Exactly. Most competitive players hit OTs every game. Easy. But like, if we see somebody like that, I highly doubt you or I would just straight up go to that kid that's having fun and saying, "How are you having fun with such a bad deck? Play it like this instead."
I
But that
think
doesn't
we're.
make
I think.
but that doesn't deviate. That doesn't make you non-competitive all of a sudden. It's more of like you're just not going to impose on someone who clearly is not matching that mindset. You just don't
No,
impose.
yeah,
People
exactly.
who are just toxic, but that still doesn't change that
Can
you're
I
competitive.
can I throw something in? I've been kind of quiet for the past 30 minutes.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
on this topic, one thing I do want to mention, there is a slight difference, on the casual and competitive mindset as well. I also call, we're kind of grown ups, right? Like as in we're more matured. So I feel,
I plead
well,
the fifth.
okay. Well, at a certain point, we're mature. We're more mature than 10 years ago when we were immature and competitive or had that whatever mindset, right? So I think you. I think the difference is that we are still competitive, but we're more matured about it. As in, we're not like
Yeah.
at the extreme level that we used to be. Is how I feel like, and I think that's where the mindset kind of thing is that I think Mark actually pointed out really well on casual, local hero, that's like the mid-range, and then competitive. But I think the difference is, like, for example, I think you guys are very competitive, like Gabe, Simon, and myself are on the pretty competitive level, but the difference is that we take the game a little differently because we've been through what 10 years of Vanguard, and we kind of see the ins and outs of it, and we kind of know, like, we
Uh,
okay.
And
All right, well,
years.
let me finish. So the thing is, I'm very
you're just
competitive,
you're
but
just reminding me of how old I am. Keep going.
you're younger than me. Shut up. But what I was gonna say is, like, because that I kind of
Yeah.
see through, and I've kind of dealt with a lot, and I kind of overall see it. Like, I think that's where, like, my competitive mindset is still there. I still want to win. And me and Gabe are playtesting, like, online every day. We go to locals every week to playtest our decks, and we're preparing for regionals. And I think that's where people like us will be competitive. But how we take the game, we're more matured about it. So people think we're in the mid range, but I think we're not. And I feel like that, Simon, on your case, I think you're a competitive player, but how you take the game, you're just like acting like you're casual, but I think you're actually pretty competitive. I think it's just the maturity differences on that. I think there is a casual competitive, but and listening to the conversation, I think Gabe is actually correct on that aspect, is that people that are casual are just like, oh yeah, we're just gonna take whatever deck that we have and we'll play. Those are the people that don't really like 100% upgrade their decks, or they just play for fun. Because I've seen players at our locals that do that. Versus if you try to upgrade your deck and make it good for whatever format, I think that would consider yourself a casual or a competitive player, at least from my mindset.
Yeah, I mean, your behaviors doesn't necessarily like.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like I said, like if someone is clearly casual, I'm not gonna
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
impose things on them unless they ask me.
Of
Then I'll
course.
I'll talk to them about it. But
But that's what
that
I was trying
doesn't
to say.
change. That
Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah, I agree. That doesn't change like your mindset.
Like, our
That doesn't make you
mindset is
casual all
still
of a sudden.
competitive players, but how we approach the game, we're just more matured about
Yeah,
it. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
mean,
gonna go to Mark and say, "Why are you playing this trash deck?" Like, that's not my mindset. I don't care whatever you play, just have fun. That's on you. But the decks I play, I want to be like, I want to play a good deck.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be meta. You're right. It doesn't have to be a meta deck. And just because you're a competitive player doesn't mean you have to pick up a meta deck. Like, I mean, Mark knows. Like, I'll play my Direful Dolls at a shop qualifier because I think it has the best chance. Yeah, I'll play it. Whatever.
Mhm.
I mean, as long
Yeah.
as it gives me the results I want. I mean, I'm a competitive player in that aspect. Because
but
yeah,
but it's also because there's viability. 'Cause we discussed about it too. We're like, well, I think there's some viability to it. You could play it very optimally, and I'd say just give it a try.
yeah, but that's
But you
what
know,
I'm trying to
and
narrow
there's
down
some
is
probably
that
too.
we're pretty competitive, and I'm gonna say Mark is actually pretty competitive too. From my mindset, I mean, he acts like he doesn't care, but he does. That's why he's on this podcast,
Whoa, whoa,
and he
whoa,
makes
whoa.
really good
Eh,
points. And once again, I think it's
he knows
just
about the competitive scene,
exactly,
so
and I think like we're just very matured. Um, well, we're still immature, but like you know what I mean. We're more matured, but we're
well,
all
we
still
carry
competitive
ourselves
players.
differently.
Because I
Yeah, we
know,
just carry
yeah,
ourselves differently with other
exactly.
people.
I know what a casual player is, because that like one of our guys at locals, um, Randall is like for me, Randall is the casual player because he has fun no matter what.
Yeah,
Like
he actually
he doesn't go
he actually
extreme.
came in top four.
Mhm.
Yeah, he came in
So
top four in the constructed cup, and he was happy, and he
yeah,
was
that's
having
what I'm
fun
saying is like
enjoying
he
himself.
didn't care if he lost or won. Like he was actually happy, right? And I think that's the main difference of what I see in a casual and a competitive player. A competitive player, like of course, like we will be like, I mean, us, like we're competitive, we want to win. But if we lose, we just kind of take it. It's like, oh well, you know, I made a misplay here and there. Like that's what we do. Because I saw you, Gabe, do that after your game with Rudy. You were analyzing your game, immediately as soon as the game was done. And I feel like that's what a competitive player does. Randall was like, "Oh, I had fun, whatever," and then he just walks off. Like that's a casual player to me.
It's literally now, and if you guys remember now in the anime when she's like done, she's literally talking to herself about what she should have done.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
competitive player in my mindset.
Yeah, it's just the way you process the game, the way you
Exactly.
behave towards other people. That's just that doesn't change how you process the game. It's more about how you process the game. That's
So
more what I was getting at.
now
Simon still
that
was correct what he
yeah,
was
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
It was more of like that was more like what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, I think like what Simon was getting to though is a little deeper in this topic because a toxic competitive player and just a regular competitive player are two different categories as well. So I
Oh,
think that's
for
a
sure.
whole yeah, that's a whole new topic that can open up another category, which I don't know if we want to go that deep today, depending on how far you guys want to get with this.
I
I'm sure
mean,
we all
I
have
think there's an
preferences.
easy way. I think there's an easy way to close that off right now that I think everybody here is honestly going to agree with. It doesn't matter how casual you are. It doesn't matter how competitive you are. There's one cardinal rule in any hobby that should be followed, especially if it's a hobby that involves other people. Don't take away the other person's fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, of course.
We're all here on the table to do our thing and to have fun. If we both have fun, that means we both found a way to play with each other rather than play with ourselves. Please clip that. And so
Coexist.
that's but I think that's honestly like the best point to come to. Whether you're on one side or the other, or in the middle, some nuanced version of a hybrid of all three or four or seven. I think at the very baseline, what I've learned transitioning from one side to the other and gravitating into my own spot in between is I don't want to take the fun away from somebody else, and I still want to have fun myself. We need to find a way for both of us to have fun as we play, basically.
So,
Yeah.
Yep.
question for everyone on this chat: Have
Yeah.
have any of us went that deep before?
In
What do you
what?
mean by
Deep as
that?
in,
The toxic competitive player. Do you think you
oh
categorize
yeah,
yourself as a toxic
Um,
competitive player?
I
oh
don't.
oh
Any
yeah, I
point of
just
the
told you
game in
guys.
Vanguard? Yeah, yeah. Well, I
For
mean,
me,
other than
I don't
Simon.
think I've ever been like I've never been toxic in the way that like I try to um take someone else's enjoyment away from it, but I have been like at points where I just like don't talk to me about Vanguard. I hate this game. Like this format is trash. If you play this format, like you're just dumb. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like
Last
I
year.
have been at that point.
Last year when
Yeah.
Hey,
Mark
I
kicked
played
himself out.
Bluish Flames once, okay?
Yeah.
Once.
And I mean I think that like it really I think for me, right, I just got to a point where I realized that like I just don't care enough. Like I gotta wake up every day, go to a 9 to 5. Like I don't have time to be, annoyed and angry about a card game.
Yeah.
So like, like I it got, and then plus like obviously like I was at a point where I wouldn't say I was a toxic premium player, but like I definitely thought premium was a better format because at the time it was
It was at
before
some point.
before Divines saved standard Vanguard.
Yep.
The Infinity Stones of Premium. Cut
Yeah.
one head off and another will take its place. Wait, that's Hydra. My bad.
No, yeah, but I think that since that I've kind of just mellowed out and like I just don't care as much anymore, and I just try to
Yeah, you just
not
want your play
maintain.
mats, your energy markers.
Yeah,
Like
man.
the good
I
promo
just
stuff.
want
Yeah, for
I
your
just want my
looks.
my I am Vanguard one promos and stuff. Gotta get those.
Yeah,
Gotta get my cheap
yeah. Give me
AKA
them.
free.
Yeah, you don't pay a penny for those.
Hey man, look, if you want things, I give you them.
Of
If
course.
I
Whoa.
you give
Clip
me
that.
them.
Clip that.
Oh, don't
Flip
clip
it.
that. Don't clip that. Don't clip that.
How about you, Gabe?
Evidence.
Have you been at any point of your career in Vanguard? Have you ever been
Weird Vanguard.
a toxic competitive player?
I mean, I don't know if you would call it toxic. It's more so. Obviously, when I was much younger, like 10, 12 years ago, much younger with more like drive and energy and over passion that every youngin has when they
It's
get
about
into a
drive.
path.
It's about
When you were a young warthog.
power.
Yes, when I was a young warthog. But basically it was I was competitive. I've always been, and I don't want to. I used to be a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh player, and I was of course with the group of Yu-Gi-Oh guys who are to that extreme, to where like if you're not playing this, you're bad. Blah blah blah. I never really carried that attitude towards people, but I think like when I picked up Vanguard, I felt I got a good knack for it. Like I felt I was pretty good with it, and that I considered myself, like above the average player for Vanguard. So that I felt like I definitely cared a lot more about winning like 10 plus years ago, to where, I mean, I still play decks I enjoy because, like, obviously, yeah, I keep meta in mind, but if there's like three meta deck choices, I don't like any of them, I'll just play something that I think can counter them or can be off meta. Because if I just don't enjoy the deck, but overall, I cared about winning a lot, to where like I did get salty a lot if I lost.
Oh yeah,
When
I've seen it.
yeah, like when because it was like something like I felt like I had to prove it to myself
Yeah.
that I was good, but also it was like if people did come to me like with what I thought at the time were just bad deck choices, I kind of would just shoot them down and be like, man, that's
Yeah.
just terrible. Like that's terrible. I won't go to someone like out of nowhere, but like if they're approaching me about stuff and I just like kind of shoot down the ideas, I'm like, that's bad. I don't know why you're doing like I don't know that's just bad. Like I'll straight up just be more direct about it. Like in a way, like even now, like when I'm interacting with some people and they talk about their choices, I just kind of, just kind of go along with the conversation with them. I'll maybe talk about like what I like, and if they enjoy something, that's fine. And it's kind of like I just don't have as much fire energy about stuff like that anymore. But I know that can come off as toxic, you could say. Or if people are like playing bad, like very bad, and I don't know. There are times like in locals where like we're witnessing a match, and I'm witnessing what I would consider like an obvious play the guy should make, or a bad play, and people are kind of like applauding it or something, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, like you guys do not see this, or
See,
like
when I
what are
see
you guys
you
talking about?
watch YouTube videos of people playing online, Gabe, I don't watch the video, I watch you.
Yeah,
Because
me
you are
too.
far more entertaining to watch than the video.
I agree. I do
Look, there
that
are
too.
times like. Yeah, there are times like that. Yes, like when when I used to watch the YouTube, it was part of my inspiration of making my YouTube channel, because
Yep.
I'll watch people play matches, and it's not even just like, oh, he should have made this optimal play and whatever. Like some, like even I misplay. I'm not perfect, but it's like if you blatantly misplay a card or do something that's obviously bad, I'm like, oh my God, why are you putting this on display? And I know I get kind of mad, but then
And he still
I
does.
well I get the most annoyed though when it's like.
A popular YouTube channel. Yeah.
No, no. Sometimes, well, this was before. Now it's like I don't care as much, kind of like somewhat how Mark is
That's a
with some
lie.
things. But no, but it's like, like you've seen it, David, too. Like people are like witnessing
Yeah, I
around
know.
like this match between these two guys, and then people are making a big deal about like a basic ass play, and I'm like, dude,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a
yeah.
simple, obvious play. Like what's taking so long, or shit, stuff like
Or
that.
you can talk about that one video when someone didn't use the mandatory Blangdemeyer ride line skill.
Oh my God, yeah, I got so mad because I messaged David and messaged it and linked the video. I'm like, dude, like how are you gonna record this match and you did not know one there was two different videos. One, the guy checked top four instead of top three for the ride line, and then the other match, the guy he just I was like, dude, the ride line is not optional, but then he just treated it like it was optional. Like, come on, man. But I try not to have that be. I mean, I really
Yeah,
try
it's
not to have that
only
behavior like
you
in
guys
real
gotta
life.
remember
But it's
this
like
is
if
only
I click
between me and
forest,
Gabe. Like he doesn't do that to anyone else. Like he would only like rant these stuff to me.
yeah. But I definitely was a little bit more open about kind of stuff like that back then. And I think it's also like I just had way too much like over passion, I guess,
Yeah.
for that for like optimal play. That I don't know. Probably some people don't like that, or like I used to get like annoyed a lot about little things like that, and I cared a lot about winning. And if I end up losing, getting sacked, it kind of like I felt like it ruined my day that day.
Hmm.
But that's kind of like the peak of my toxicity, I guess you could say, where I delved into that realm.
There's a common saying we now have. All of us know it, and all of us say it. When we get hit by an OT or a double crit in standard, we just go, "Well, that's Vanguard."
Yeah,
Yeah, I
on
don't even get
this.
salty anymore. I never got salty really at any OT. Like even when I got OT'd in the finals, I was like, "Hey, cool." Extended my hand. I was like, "Hey, good game, good
Yeah,
game."
it's a part of the game, man.
That's it.
Honestly,
Can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
on this category, I felt like I probably went to the most extreme toxicity, to be honest. At one point, because I think me being a toxic player, went extremely in Vanguard, I believe. And like I said, I don't feel good about it, but if it's something that we're all like
It's
kind of
part of your life.
yeah, yeah, I mean, we're all open to it, right? So it's
It's part of your
like
life.
at one point we had a group called SAC in our area. This was like we gathered a bunch of good players from Maryland, Virginia. We so our main goal was to top every single event around. Regionals, ARG events, whatever big tournaments were hosted, we were expected to make top eight, and it was so bad. Because I think I told Mark like months ago how bad this group was. We had rankings within our group, and that's how bad it was, right? And I
I don't
just
remember that.
yeah, because you never really cared, and this is like when you were kind of dying out of the game.
Oh yeah,
But
true.
yeah, it was pretty extreme where if we don't top like at a certain event, we were forcing each other to eat like ghost pepper wings and stuff. It was stupid. But it was really bad from my opinion, only because like if it stayed within the group, I think it would have been fine. But the problem is that it's all the other players didn't want to play because of our group. At one point, so locals died out really hard. Not just because of the format, but because of how our group was pretty toxic, going around like Philly and other locals and killing them is basically like what we were doing, and I kind of felt really bad. Kind of maturing out of it. So I feel like that I pretty went extremely on that point, and that's one of the reasons why I am sensitive on the more like competitive, toxic competitive player vibe, and I don't like to see it anymore because I know that what affects it to other players. So I definitely think like being a toxic competitive player really hurts your area and the game, but not just that, but like it kind of kills off the vibe for other players. So I don't really highly recommend this route. I've tried it. Not a very fun route.
Yeah, I feel like everybody has had their skirt
Yeah.
and their experience with this particular thing we talk about. It's why we have such powerful opinions.
Yeah.
that we can express on the matter. But fortunately, it's like David was saying, a lot of us have, grown up. Well, some of us, not me, but a lot of us have grown up and we've come to, a much more middle ground, a
Yeah.
much more
Exactly.
nuanced version of what we were back then.
Exactly. And that's why I think we're like maybe like people like me and Simon are kind of like more casual is what we say, but we're not casual. We just act casual. There's a difference.
Yeah, because our
We're
mindsets are
acting like
still really
yeah,
competitive.
yeah, we're
It's
really
very.
competitive, but we're
It's just
acting
how
like
you
we're
carry
casual.
yourself.
Yeah.
It's just how you carry yourself. It's just
Exactly.
how you carry yourself. Like you don't need to put a like we've learned over the years that you don't have to put a label on something.
Yeah.
You don't have to rank people. You don't have to put some kind of a label on it and take it seriously. If you do it, then just do it within your friend group and just don't take it seriously. Have fun with it. Like you could still enjoy yourself while also bouncing off each other and as far as improving yourself, but like you don't have to like carry yourself in a way that is like imputing on other people. That's really more what I kind of view it as. Like you can't help it. Like if you do like winning, which is fine, and you enjoy the process of pursuing like winning and competitive like play, which is I do for at least Vanguard. Because there's other games where I really don't care, and that's fine. It's like any way that you approach the game is just it's fine as long as you're enjoying yourself and you're not impeding on other people, as Simon put it. I pointed out.
Yeah. And I think that's what I'm saying is like being that level of player of affecting others is not good. And I haven't really
Let's try
seen it.
encourage
Yeah,
people.
I haven't really seen it anymore. To someone that's extremely in our area, like where they're affecting other players. In that sense. So I think it's a good vibe.
Yeah, it's like I try to encourage people
Yeah,
still, like here and
exactly.
there.
We want to
I've seen
encourage
we had
people.
some. Yeah, because I've never met some new guys months ago, and they were brand new. So I encouraged a few things, and when we had our match, he was making some misplays, but I let him correct it. I was giving him some advice. You could still encourage good play.
Yeah,
They don't have to be. You can still encourage
of
better
course.
play, but there's different ways to carry yourself on how to do that, and that involves people skills, which, a lot of card gamers. Let's be honest, our community doesn't necessarily have a lot of people with those abilities. But
No, Gabriel is correct. I have horrible people skills.
I know, God, I don't know what to do with you,
Yeah, I
man.
think that's why
Oh,
like
you know exactly what you want to do with me.
Shut up.
that you just kind of stopped what I was gonna say. What I was gonna say is I think that's why more recently I've been more focused on like helping new players or like try to get more players into the game and try to drag new players into the game is my main focus. Is because like one I felt pretty bad in the past, but like also like I think having good players is always good, and I think the other locals I mainly go on Mondays. They've been having that vibe where they're bringing new players every week. I'll see someone new or someone new added to the chat saying, "Hey, I'm new to the game. What should I play? Or how does this game work?" Or they're saying like, "Oh, well, you should come play test with us." Because one of the guys on the chat he works at the Boba Hero location, so he's been using demo decks to help them out. So that's just a really good vibe to see, and that's one of the things I like
Yeah,
about the locals at the moment is they always are bringing new players no matter what.
yeah, and like it could be a very casual feeling environment, but I think also at the same time, there are some people. We also encourage like good play as
Of
well. But
course.
there's just we always encourage each other to, like, hey, you could do that. Hey, this could be better. This could be better. And but there's just a way you do that to just promote just improving everyone. But there's no judgment.
Yeah.
The key is like making sure people don't feel like they're being judged
Yep.
or like for it. Because I know I've been in those toxic environments when I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh, where like you are literally judged like in a personal level because how you play the game
Yep, your
and like
personal
it's
worth is tied to your wins. And it's like, wow, fucking hell, man.
yeah, and I know that I had to shake that off when I shifted over to Vanguard, and I know some people had to as well, because it's like you really have to shake off that to where you have to disassociate like card games, your ability to play card games with just real life. It's like you guys know that one meme where it's like the guy standing in the corner of a party and then he's like, everyone's, those couples like kissing and stuff, and he's like in the corner with his drink, thinking in his head, it's like, man, like no one here knows that I'm mildly good at card games. Yeah, there's some people that do like wear their card gaming on their sleeve and make it part of their personality,
Oh,
and that's where you kind of make it
so
too much.
funny story. On this, I guess, kind of related to this topic, different card game, but so mm, this was a point when I got really hard into Buddy Fight at one point when Buddy Fight
Oh
first
yeah.
came out.
Oh, that game
Really
was so
funny.
fun. I
Okay,
hate that Bushiroad mishandled it.
yeah. So
You should say you hate that the game was called Buddy Fight in the first place.
yeah, yeah.
I love that it was called Buddy Fight. Think
What?
about the faces you got when you went up to
Oh,
someone
that's
and you're like, "Yeah, I play future card Buddy Fight," and they go, "What the fuck?"
okay.
The fuck is
Yeah.
that?
So going on. So I remember I made like three players quit because I played this one deck.
Jackknife,
Nope.
Fucking Dungeon World.
Dungeon World.
Dungeon World.
One of the person that quit Buddy Fight because of me was one of our friends named Josh. And
Don't name drop.
he comes to me every time and tells me how much he would have loved to play Buddy Fight, and I just killed the motivation out of it because I played the one deck that was like top tier.
Hey man, I had the counter. I played Thunder Dragons.
Yep.
Like I had the counter to
But
it.
see, that's what I'm saying is like the mindset is so different, right? Like I was playing that cancer deck and I was like winning every week, but then Gabe had a different mindset of saying, you know what, I'm gonna play a deck that counters it. But then the other people were like, oh fuck, or sorry, screw this game. I'm not playing this game ever again because of David playing Dungeon World. Like the mindset is so different, and I
See,
think
it's
that's what's really
actually
surprising.
yeah, it's actually what I was talking about my definitions of casual players because like I played against those same players with my Thunder Dragons and I was beating them, but
But they
obviously I
didn't
don't
feel
beat
bad
them.
about it, right? But then they played
Well, it
Dungeon
was
World. They're like, "F this game."
well, it was more of what I said because I think for a casual player, as long as they can have a chance to play the game and perform their deck and not get OTK'd or like locked down or being forced to do or handcuffed,
Hmm.
like they can be satisfied. And like the deck I played at the time was, it was a little bit more of like a slow burn type of deck and defensive, but it wasn't like, I overwhelmed you and made it and not allow you to play the game because I think that's where casual players get annoyed
Yeah,
for it in my opinion. But Simon, you were about to say something?
No.
Oh, okay. You were just breathing heavily.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying is like that's a very good example of a meta player.
I mean, even if you talk about like Yu-Gi-Oh, like usually if you talk to like a casual Yu-Gi-Oh player, they always mention like, man, I got OTK by this or la la la, and it's always the meta deck and stuff. So it's like,
Yeah, it's weird to say that the casual Yu-Gi-Oh decks now, like a lot of the anime decks, Ancient Gears is a perfect example.
Isn't
It's
that a
like,
really good
oh,
deck?
that's a I'm not sure if it's a really good deck right now, but I know that when I was playing a few years ago, because I'm assuming their main strategy hasn't really shifted, it was a casual deck back then, but the whole thing revolves around you taking your turn, turning off your opponent's card effects, and then swinging at them for piercing for 8k or more damage. And I was all like, this is what casual Yu-Gi-Oh is now? What?
yeah,
And
I mean,
then
I can't OTK you, so that's not casual, right? So it's not. It's
and then fucking Gabe like, what now? Now from what I hear from people saying, it's all like, oh yeah, like Yu-Gi-Oh is all about just building like a floodgate board now or something. I was like, what?
Yeah, one guy was telling, I can't remember the name of the deck, but he was telling me like ways you could lock down your opponent. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like my style, but I hope this is not the norm.
Mm-mm. Nope,
When
nope.
control decks,
Mm-mm.
when control decks are the meta, that's where the game is really destroyed.
That's where the health
Well,
is gone.
yeah, Link Jokers.
My
Yeah.
indicator for is a format good generally, right, for premium specifically for like Vanguard. Is Grand Blue like one of the three best decks? Yes, cool. Format's probably not good.
Throw, man, you didn't even fire that subtly. You went into
No,
the room,
alright,
you
so
put up a banner, and you said, "I want you."
listen. So the way I see it, right, is that Grand Blue is a deck, right? It's very similar to Dredge and Magic the Gathering. Right?
Yeah.
And that deck is very, it's not even just like because of the like they're both graveyard based or whatever. It's just that when those decks are good, it's because they they're toolbox decks, and if the toolbox deck has the best tools and there's no downside to those tools, and it's the best deck. Like Granblue has the best early game in premium right now, and it has the best late game in premium.
Wait, Mark. Are you telling me that you don't like being attacked by undead dragons 6 times?
Oh, the dragon's not even the worst part of it. The worst part of it is that you get to do Ghost Ship and draw a bajillion cards on like turn 2, turn 3. So, and then you've also got Enlarglove, which was a mistake. The problem is that Bushiroad has done a weird thing, and not to drill this too off topic before we get back to the actual topic, but they do this thing where it seems like they're starting to figure out how to print cards that are future proofed, and then they just like go, oopsie, we didn't. Our bad, guys.
On that
Fucking
subject,
Cat Butler. Fucking Cat Butler.
on that subject, I will say this. We are going to talk about this later because I will be making it a topic on a future podcast about how Bushiroad tests things in a vacuum, how it affects the health of the game, and how it affects the overall health of every format, because they do not have a second thought for premium. And I will tell you right now, Mark, as someone who has played Vanguard for the entire lifetime it's been out, I should be someone that plays premium. I don't play premium because I don't think Bushiroad cares about taking care of that format.
Definitely not.
Yeah, and that can be something we talk about much later as a subject of like how to keep a healthy card game. But that's a good way to sum it up, at least for now. But yeah, it's like, I think that it's a good thing to talk about our nuances and the things we find different, because all of us are competitive in Vanguard, at least in a pretty different way, even though we can all be parallel to each other. And like we were saying before, the really big takeaway to get from this is that there is ways to be competitive without being utterly and completely toxic. And like, it's like Gabe said, we're human. There are some times when we kind of just like snap, and sometimes where we fall back into that aspect of ourselves. But the important thing is that we make efforts to try to be, just fun to play with for the most part.
Yeah, I agree.
I always try to be the funny guy.
I'm not funny at all, so that's good for you, David.
Sorry, man, I'm way too funny. You can't be the funny guy.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, Mark ranting about Hispanic rice was pretty funny.
Listen.
You do not F with rice, bro. You don't F with rice. By the way, 3 of us in this chat are Asian right now. You do not mess with rice.
Hey, half Asian, half Hispanic, so I know rice in 2 different languages, and it sucked. The way Mark explained it.
Crazy.
So,
yeah, but
we are most likely participating in regionals. Is there any decks that you guys have been playing, testing, looking forward to, even in the future?
I have been playing a lot of Equilibra, and I can some very interesting things about that deck.
Dude, Mark, that deck of that.
You guys are cutting off. You guys might want to
I'll.
You guys are cutting off again.
Am I good?
Okay.
Because I can hear Mark just fine. Can you hear me just fine?
You guys want to redo that topic one more time?
So Mark is talking about Equilibria.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before you go on, Mark, I will finish what I was saying. I love Equilibria because I have a gambling addiction. I love that the deck doesn't care about triggers because it literally gets that big, but its gambling comes from, did I draw my grade 2? F. Did I draw my grade 2? F. Did I draw my grade 2 and my grade 1? F. Oh, I got it! I win the game! Whoa!
Get bricked.
So, for me, right, after doing extensive playtesting with this deck, I can say for certain that, like, I love the design of this deck, but if you don't draw Persona Rides, you are cooked. You are not winning the game. It does not matter. You are.
Yeah, that restanding grade 2 needs it so bad.
Yeah, you legitimately need a Persona Ride. Even if you don't have your restander, you just need a Persona Ride because the numbers are so big on the first grade 3 turn, but like on the second grade 3 turn, now they're caught up to you if you go first. It's just like,
yeah, you need to close the game off somehow.
Yeah, it's so poo-poo numbers, man. Like I played now mind you, this person also hit like defensive over trigger, double heal. So like that was cool or whatever. But like it just runs out of gas, and if it's out of gas, it just can't get the gas back. Like
On that
you know,
subject, I did notice that. I was playing my Empoleon deck to playtest against a buddy of mine. And like I was kind of terrified because he almost killed me on the first turn. I feel like that is what the deck is
yeah,
supposed to feel like it does, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I was playing Impuldio, and so he served me my damage after I got my fourth auto mod, and then suddenly after the first turn, I was like, okay, triggers bring me up to 28. I can use this to help weather out another 58k column or some BS like that. And then he didn't Persona Ride, and he's all like, 28. I was like, wait, what?
It literally
That's
becomes
wet noodle
wait, that's
numbers.
it.
Yeah, it's like some wet noodle numbers, and that you have to double check. Like, wait, let me double check. This can't be right. Let me see. Let me see. Like,
So
miscalculated.
I picked up his card because I couldn't believe it. I was like, you must be missing something here, dude. I picked up his column. I was like, what the? How'd you get so big on the first turn?
Yeah, that deck is pretty crazy. If it can hit, like if it can hit his Persona Ride.
Yeah, if it
Yeah,
gets
for
the right number. So what?
yeah,
I
for
didn't
some,
actually like read deep into it, Mark. Like, what is it that gives the deck so much power on the first ride, but then you tank? Is it an on-ride effect or something?
No, so the big advantage if you're first, right, and you are playing that deck, is that your opponent generally doesn't have they're at 10k base, and all of your boosters become 23Ks.
Okay.
So 23K on a 10K is a 15K. It still hits over a trigger, right? God forbid you're not even thinking about the three in the front row, adding their
Mm-hmm.
power as well. And plus, Equilibra itself becomes a 23K when you use its skill. So that's really the difference. Is that 3K really like just hammers it home. Also, like you're not able to recoup the cards in your hand, so you are very much like hellbent. And it's like, did I kill you? No. I have 5 cards in hand now. I hope I can survive your turn. And then let's say you
Okay.
do survive their turn, right? Then if you don't hit a Persona Ride and you only really have the cards you're given to deal with, you're in a weird situation because your numbers aren't so much bigger that they can't hit a defensive out of it. Lee Escafel specifically being on an 18k base for the rest of the game is incredibly annoying.
Yeah,
It really messes
and
up
by
your game.
parallel effect in Paldio and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
and Paul Dio as well. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So that's the big thing for me. Also, another one is that the grade 2 restander is a small numbers when you choose it with a Calibra before you restand with it,
yeah,
because it's at most it's a 20k. You choose it once, it's a 20k when it swings if you have 2 other overcharge units. So it's not.
Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah,
That sounds like
you
everything.
you really need a Persona Ride on the restanding turn. That deck, quite frankly, that deck has like it really needs the ability to go second and just like go ham, because damage denial doesn't really work against the deck because you only need one CB, right?
Sure.
You just need a CB to do either your forward and revertus or your super duper scales equal whatever. Um, and if you aren't able to do that, then you might be a little bit stuck, but really you should be fine. So go second if you can. Getting that first attack off is great. Front triggers is definitely probably the way, but I think draws are potentially where you might want to be because you're not
Those are
guarding.
nuances. You pick
You're not.
whatever.
Yeah, you're not guarding very much anyways. So draws might be better because you just want to get more pieces
Or
in
you
that
can
deck.
just take out heals like you did with Varga.
Listen. I could do that. You're right. I could.
And then
I
you can
could do
run
that.
both draws and fronts.
Yeah, but that deck just isn't as
Yeah, no,
fast as
no, no. Yeah,
Vargas,
yeah, I got you.
unfortunately. Yeah, but very fun deck. I love the design of it, but I just think that it's just missing an extra piece that gives it pressure on the fourth turn if you don't hit Persona right. And I don't even think the new triple rare in set 5 really helps with that.
How is Aqua
That's the
Libra not an overcharge unit? That annoys me so much.
Yeah.
it's a
Does it matter
very
that Alcalibra is not an overcharge?
yeah, technically it does matter because of the grade 2.
Hmm.
You can add the Equilibra to hand, but you can't soul charge if you add it.
That
Yeah,
makes
but you still get to add the Ackle to your hand,
Also,
so you can try to
also
set up.
importantly, the deck does not shuffle currently. So
What?
if you the deck does not have a shuffler. So if you the only shuffler you'll get is if you draw the grade 1 Justina, the one that searches in order. So if you put Equilibra, like if you look at your top 3 on your grade 3 turn and you have 2 Equilibras and like a random card, you have to put an Equilibra. So you're putting a Persona Ride and a random card on the bottom, and you're never touching it for the rest of the game. I believe the triple rare in set 5 does fix that, but at the same time, like it's also going to be in, you know, Leia land and Night Rose land and Hari land. So like the deck's not going to be good in America or in the West anyway. So it's like at that point it doesn't even matter. It's a moot point.
yeah.
So, but that's
Yeah.
what I've been testing recently.
I'll go last
Yeah,
on this one, so we can have Gabe go up and then David go up.
sure.
We're talking about set 4.
What you're
We're
playing,
going
what you're
into-
testing, or what you're looking forward to.
So I pretty much made the decision to play Blangdemeyer for the next coming regionals in Philadelphia in December.
Lindomaya.
Like I've been playing Blangdemeyer like for a bit now, ever since I got my comeback in the game. I love. I always feel very safe and secure playing decks that have some kind of strong guard
Central
restrict.
strategy.
Some
Oh,
yeah,
guard restriction.
simple, yeah, simple strategies. Just to me, like I feel most comfortable in a high leverage environment, I guess per se, where a deck that can be disruptive to your opponent, as in it can retire, bind, or manipulate their hand. In this case, Blindmeyer can retire, so it makes you make business decisions of cards you will potentially give up when dealing
Yeah,
with
some sort
Blindmeyer.
of like tempo aspect, basically.
Yep, and then because of his divine skill, your opponents have to awkwardly guard out of pattern what they normally would be just to deal with him. And because of Vade Rock Dragon introduced in set 4, he has much stronger kill power and reach as well. Like I've actually in testing I've ended games when my opponent's at 2 damage, just because like 70k Zamoog is 70k Zamoog without triggers is very strong, especially if I catch you like turn 4 and you didn't drive and you drove check dry with no triggers, you most likely can't like guard. So Blankmeyer I feel is just really safe, and I talked about this with David and other guys. It's like I always like decks where like when you look at their peak, like on their win con, for the most part, when Blankmeyer's in a position, to go for their win con, your opponent has to pray they like get lucky on heal triggers or maybe they draw perfectly the amount of cards they need, but then they're left with nothing. So I feel very secure playing Blankmeyer. Uh, like Empoleon was something I kept in the back of my mind because it's kind of like a counter to like Doji in a way in
One of the
some
best decks in the
fashions.
format, yeah.
Yeah. But although it's interesting with Empoleon because I talked about it with one of our local people. The one who lent me the deck for Constructed Cup. Because she also plays a lyrical deck that's similar. I think it's the Trick or Treat deck. Like I don't know the
Oh,
name of it.
Fennel?
Fennel.
Yeah, Fennel. Yeah, yeah. They're both 3 attack decks that create pressure in slightly different ways. 'Cause there's Vinchar, the grade 3 that can drive check on the rear guard for Impuldio, and then there's Fennel has like the extra crit on the side. So it's a 3 attack deck, but it more prioritizes quality over quantity. And kind of like what Simon mentioned earlier, it's like Impuldio. It's very simple, a very simple basic deck, but you really have to play very well fundamentally for it. But I don't know. I'm still a little skeptical about playing a 3 attack deck because all it takes is your opponent healing conveniently, and then all of a sudden you're behind,
Yep.
and now the game's taking longer.
Yep, that's why the deck tries to extra drive to try to fish out the crit or the OT so hard to try to like seal down the game with the big number rather than the multi attack.
Yeah, and similar to how I feel with freestanding vanguards in a competitive environment, although I do want to play Rakshasa Varga like set 5. If you're kind of relying a lot on your triggers, then in a way I don't feel as safe compared to playing a deck like Blandemeyer where it doesn't rely on triggers for its
Yeah,
win
because that's an
potential.
aspect of the game you can't control. So
Correct. I try to like I like to go with decks that have as much controllables as possible towards its win con rather than trying to just leave it to chance for your win con. So that's why I'm a little skeptical. Like, although I love restanding vanguards, I'm always skeptical last minute when it comes to restanding vanguards because it happened to me with Varga in the first few shop challenges. I was just dry on my triggers, and then I just
yeah,
lose.
restanders only reach their full power in the game when you were able to tag a crit or something behind it, right? So that makes a lot of sense.
Or like you hit no triggers and then your opponent heals like twice within 2 turns, and then they keep going down to 2. I'm like, God dang it, man.
Hey, I've only done that to you once, and you were playing Welstra, not a restanding Vanguard.
Hey, man, look, listen, we could talk about back our experience when I was playing Overlord and you kept doing that to me.
Hey, you still won that game in Anime Expo. I told you exactly what play you needed to do, and I predicted what triggers you were going to hit. You were the real winner there.
Didn't feel like it, but anyway.
You're up, David.
So I've been testing 2 decks, but I might add an additional one for regionals to play. So I've been testing Blank Demire, just like Gabe has. I am still getting back into the deck, so I am testing out some new plays and new techs for it. But I'm still like trying to like make less misplays with Blank Demire because there were some scenarios I was making some misplays with it. So, but the deck overall feels pretty good compared to like when I played it in set 2. Um, by the way, I only played Blank Demire in set 2 because of Mark, by the way. So, but now I actually do want to play the deck. So there's a difference. So Blank Demire is pretty consistent. I am using I'm running a hybrid. I am trying the Underworld package with the Maids and the Colossus because I kind of like everything, but I don't want to run like a full 4-4 type lineups because sometimes like there are situations you need certain cards.
To be
So
fair, to be fair, you don't run. Most people don't run four of the maid, right? They usually do if you're gonna do a maid, searcher, and a order split. I usually see 2-2-2
yeah,
or 2-3-2.
so I think I'm running 2 of the Underworld packages right now. I'm running 3 Colossus, 2 Maids, and then I was telling you,
Okay.
yeah, the donations and all that. So I'm like I'm tweaking it more towards my playstyle. Like I'm still running Blank Demire, but like I'm more tweaking it how I like it.
Hmm.
The other deck I am playing Zorga. That ever since I picked it up, that has been my favorite deck, and it's a deck.
Zorga.
Yeah, that's a deck I've been wanting to play in set 2, but it was so hard to get at the time. And then
Really?
yeah, so
And
they
it's
finally
expensive
dropped in
too.
price. So I was
Pretty
waiting.
expensive.
Oh, Philanders. Was that was what holding you
Yeah,
back?
that was like I think it was like almost going up to like $40 at one point.
Oh yeah, yeah. True. I remember you were talking about that before.
Yeah, so I was
Dang.
like, so that's why I was hesitant to pick up the deck. But eventually everything started dropping, and then I actually had some good deals on Finlanders, so I picked up the 2, and that's how I started playing Zorga. But the more I played, I actually enjoyed the deck, so I actually might invest the other 2 Finlanders at one point, probably after regionals.
That's good, man. It's good you're
Um,
enjoying your new pickup. That's always
yeah,
nice.
yeah, because it's a toolboxing deck, and once again, like me and Simon are very similar on what we like in a deck is toolboxing. So that's what I really like about Zorga. I am teching in for other matchups. I have played against a couple Doji matchups, but it's only been really like one player. So I probably need to play against more other Doji players, but for some reason, all the Doji players have been dying at locals, so I haven't really seen any. So it's been
There
really
were
hard.
sure Nui players too.
Yeah, but sure Nui was actually the easiest matchup I ever had with Zorga.
Oh, really?
Burst is really good against Shiranui. If you can get a double dragon on them on your first grade 3 turn,
Not
it
even
puts them
that.
off balance.
Not even that. The play I make is I play Shadow Cloak, drop the Angel Ladder in the drop, and then pick it up with on my ride. and then I'll just play Angel Ladder and shut them down.
No, it's good. That's what I did with Raziel when I was playing against it in a tournament.
So
I didn't search the damn thing, but I was fortunate enough that I drew it early and I shut down their first turn.
So I think Zorga's a good deck to play only because that I'm not scared of any matchups with that deck as much. Doji is a hard matchup, but I think there is ways to play around Doji with Zorga versus like other option decks I had. So that's another reason why I'm considering Zorga and I've been playtesting it. The last one is I'm actually highly considering playing Mush King because it's a best of one format, and I'm just like,
Oh, because Peter played it earlier.
yeah, he gave me a really good idea. So I
Mm-hmm.
think if it works out how I want it to, then that might be the deck I might just go balls deep and play it. So
So the idea, you went half into it earlier, but the idea was he plays Alvina, right? The new
yeah, he
generic
plays
triple R,
Alvina in the grade one festival collection grade one.
the retrieval, the discard
Yep,
retrieval, right?
which is fair.
Okay, so does he just use them as a value engine then to keep
Yes,
himself in the game?
exactly. And the
Okay.
consistency is still there. So the only other thing I'm gonna do different from Peter is I'm gonna use Mark's idea for Varga.
What?
So I'm
No
gonna,
heals.
yep.
Let's go.
So that's what I'm gonna try out with Mush Kings, is I'm gonna
You
actually.
crazy kids, you.
I mean, I'm the person that ran 16 crit Saint so I feel like this is more my mojo if I am gonna play a rush deck. So that's what I want to try with the Mush Kings. Because I mean the
All you
consistency
need
is
is
there.
kill.
Yeah, yeah, I mean the consistency is there now with the Alvina and the other grade one. So I'm like, okay, well the consistency is there. So as long as like I can do my plays how I'm supposed to, then
Hey man, go try it out. Tell me how it goes. That sounds exciting.
yeah. So I
Now
think
you're back to your aggro ways.
I mean just for regionals, I do like the more like slower type decks like Direful Dolls now, but I think I'm just trying to have other options available because last minute I want to switch and say, oh, you know what, this is what I want to play. This is the vibe I'm getting. So,
True, true.
but yeah, I mean Gabe knows, but I was a pretty heavy rush player back during G or like any premium format. So that's what I was really good at.
Yeah, you just mentioned you played Saint Guard, and I was like, yep, that checks.
Yeah,
That's about
16,
right.
16 crit Sankard. Like I was like last minute change. I was like, you know what? I'm not running heals. I'm gonna switch back to crits. So yeah, so that's what I've been testing for regionals at least. And then decks I look forward to. I really want to play the Dark Leo deck, but I feel my biggest concern is funding, cause so here's the thing. I wanted to play Night Rose at one point, but and I have all the stuff now. I have Avinas, I have Philanders, I have everything. But I'm just like, do I really want to invest in both stride decks? Because I'm already planning to get Harry because it's a Dark State deck. And then set 5 is literally a month before, which is Liel. And Liel's gonna probably gonna be pretty heavy on tax, right? Because waifu tax.
Yeah.
So I might have to hold back on Liel, but I'm definitely gonna get Harry. But what really concerns me is the cards I have to get for set 6, because that's gonna be a bigger set for me, personally.
They keep on revealing more and more stuff I'm gonna be getting out of it, and I'm like,
Exactly. So do I really
ah.
need to? Do I need to really play Liel, right? Like Harry, I'll have just because, like once again, it's a Dark State deck, it's a Stride deck. I'll have it for future references. And worst case is like with Harry, I can always sell it, and there's always gonna be someone that's gonna buy it. So not the biggest concern. Sets. So I am looking forward to playing Harry. Because I've been testing a few builds prior. I have a couple interesting ideas, and also, it's a toolbox deck. So I really love those kind of decks. So definitely looking forward to that, and definitely looking forward to some Glory Maelstrom in set 6.
Please be good.
I know.
Please
I'm
make me
just
not play the order.
I'm just praying to God that Glory Maelstrom is actually decent because I really love playing Maelstrom. That was a deck I've been liking in D series. Interesting enough. So I'm looking forward to it.
Almighty Buddha. Almighty Buddha in heaven, if you really exist up there, please let us not play that damn set order no more. Please.
Yeah, that set order just really ruins Maelstrom.
Oh well.
Oh, you're up.
This week I am finishing up my final list of not Blangmire, I always do that. Barrel Magnus right now. It's fortunately a deck that doesn't see too many deck lists online for tops and whatnot, so it's been a fun puzzle to solve. I think the list you had all seen prior, I'm probably gonna stick with that. I just need to decide what those two grade ones are gonna turn into, but for the most part, it's been fun. Figuring out the soul charging math equation behind it was a really neat thing to do. I haven't done that since playing Dark Irregulars way back when.
Yeah.
Other other than that, we got testing with Impaldio in. I was not too excited for Impaldio because the deck build is really linear. You, for the most part, will max out most of the auto mod cards, and then we wait for set 5. But I was surprised at how effective it was in being able to recover, because there's something to say about like how effective a deck can make a trigger, right? Like Gabe was talking about before, that critical triggers turn restanders into the most terrifying beings in the galaxy,
Yeah.
for one. And Paldio, you looking at your opponent's face, when you hit a heal and go down to 4 or 3 while you have a stacked auto mod gauge, I was like, wow, this feels really powerful.
Yeah.
Like, absurdly powerful. I was really surprised at how well it was able to utilize, heals and stuff like that. Hell, I like seeing them more on the extra drives than I like seeing crits. But those two are basically up. I've been testing Bruce, but Bruce is really linear. You just add in 4 of the new card in the new promo, whatever.
So
Like, I think
yeah,
my.
Bruce is a deck I actually want to pick up. I'm actually trying to. All the stuff went up in price, so I'm waiting.
Oh, did it? Oh, that
Yeah,
sucks,
it went up
man.
a lot.
Oh, that sucks. I think for what I'm looking forward to, I'm looking forward, of course, to Liel Odium,
Yep.
Dark Liel, because I like that she interacts with orders. I have a bunch of like random generic crap in my binder that I'm going to be sticking into the deck here and there and seeing how it works out for the deck build, but it's also doing really well in Japan, so I expect my endpoint is going to be very close to theirs. On the bright side, we don't have the Cell Gown clone for Dark States yet, so we have to do something unique there at least.
Dark State
What
so
I'm
needed.
really.
Yep, so good.
Oh, I know, dude. That's why Reverdis went up. My big look forward to. My big look forward to, because this is going to be a little weird because of our release schedule is flipped from Japan,
Yep.
is the Stride decks coming out in January. Because whether you're picking up one or not, they're going to inject themselves into the format. So that means they're going to hit our local level and competitive level. And I think the splash that they make is going to make just playing really fun. Not to mention, I like playing decks that have lots of lines of play. Like David said, I'm an old Royal Paladin player. And so I'm really looking forward to like seeing what shenanigans I can get up to when I'm playing the Night Rose deck.
Yep.
That's about everything though. Like I said.
I mean, slightly different choices for someone that enjoys toolboxing, but once again, I think it's only because like I'm more focused on keeping dark states versus like you're not really limited on what you want to keep. So
No, I'm a Vanguard slut. I'm sorry.
you slut.
I also I need to get back into the Bruce thing, the Bruce swing of things, because I forgot that we were getting a couple Bruce cards in this set.
I will make a light mention of it to elaborate on it a little bit for you, Mark. Because do you know what the 2 new cards do?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, do you know what the combo of the deck is to do its 7 attack turn?
It is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I haven't done
I-
the whole.
Now I really want to get it.
Oh man. So for David's elaboration, I'll go through the really short version. Do you know what the new grade 1 does? Because the grade 2 honestly doesn't matter. It's just a really damn good card.
Yeah, the grade 1. I don't remember what the name of it is.
So Orlindo's effect says that if he's in the back row center, so Stephanie's out of the deck, after a rear guard attacks, you murk 2 of your guys in the front row, draw a card, and move a back row up to the front row. The back row in question is supposed to be Julian, because when Julian
yeah.
swings, you can produce a new unit on an empty rearguard circle, so you can max the deck into 7 swings.
Oh,
freaking good.
It's
amazing.
gnarly.
I have like all the Bruce cards, so I need to pick up some of my Orlandos.
Yeah, there you go, man. There you go. I mean, I will state a little bit of a market watch thing right now for that.
Yeah.
This is the month that Orlandos are injected back into the market. So if you're going to pick up Orlandos, it should be this month because after this month, their print stops. I will say this for you, David, and for you, Mark. Your community has helped me out to get one of my Orlandos. I only need to get one more, so I will source mine from my own community or get it online. You guys should get your own Orlandos if you can. It is absolutely essential.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they don't go for a lot.
Dude,
they're
people
only
are trying to
$18
boost them
right
back up.
Yeah, they're
22, I think.
Yeah, they're like
No,
a
they're 18.
$17, $16 card.
Yeah, there's 6 at 19 right now.
Okay. Like, honestly speaking, if they were supposed to drop in price to a new median, it should have happened already because the second wave of packs comes out this week and next week. So if you don't see it dropping down to the right price after next week, or if supply starts drying up really quickly, I'd say bite the bullet, honestly.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, remember, there's some doo-doos that are going around and buying off cards right now. So
Freaking poo-poo heads.
I'm just saying, I am not happy right now about that. But I mean,
Part of the game. It's why sometimes it's why I got burned out of Vanguard for a little bit years ago because it was the same thing that happened in Yu-Gi-Oh! And then obviously when it was happening in Vanguard, the crap. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Do this anymore.
Especially because we're rotating into tournament season right now as well.
We're also, the difference between us and Yu-Gi-Oh is that like the Konami aggressively reprints cards, like not as aggressively as Pokemon does, but like Konami is very aggressive about reprinting cards. So like, you know that if you don't pick up like top tier meta cards because they're too expensive, you're like, all right, well, at least in a year I'll be able to buy it for, $12 or pennies on the dollar because it's going to get reprinted in a tin that everyone's going to buy a crap ton of, So,
yeah, but Vanguard does not do that.
agreed.
Oh, what I would not give for the next festival collection, and this is not for me, note, because I have a set of every single energy cycler. What I would not give for Bushi Road to next festival collection to bring the energy cyclers in at double R to fill in the set.
I think, I'm going to be honest, I don't even think that's necessary because I think we might have touched on this
yeah,
last
I don't
time
think
was on.
we need to use energy cyclers as.
I think that we will get to a point where there's going to be so many good cards for each deck that you don't want to play cyclers anymore.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Just like in general, though, right? Not even just the cyclers, but just cards we need. Like, granted, Bushiroad Across Time has found ways to reprint really, really needed promos. Thagria's Order is a really good example of this. Being downgraded to an R in the reprint set,
I think promos.
that was pretty good. Yeah, so like, I do have relative faith that if you guys don't pick up Orlandos now, they reprint Orlando as a double R or a triple R or a rare somewhere.
That's why I'm not in a rush for it. Like, that's why I'm just getting the other Bruise cards right now, slowly. So, I mean,
And remember, there's always paper rarity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not playing it for regionals or anything, so I mean, I'm not like trying to pick it up at the moment, but I'm slowly picking up everything else when stuff drops. So that's just my take on the market. Like, I'm just either you pick it up early or you just wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what else
like
are we gonna do?
Dual Nation. Was it the Sky is your Dual Nation? She's like $40.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I picked it up for like $12.
I picked it up with my store credit from our locals when they had 2 in the case.
Nice. For my dual nations, I picked up the ones I wanted, and I was like, nope, this is it. I'm done. I am not going to deal with this anymore.
Kind of why I don't want to play Aqua Libra, because like I would like to play with the Verdes. I know you don't have to. You can play like Brachiosaurus and stuff, but it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, there's, like I said, those people going around brewing the market for us when we want to build new decks and try new things.
Yep, it also creates a higher barrier of entry. Well, that should be just about everything we got today. So are you good to do the outro now, David?
Yeah, Why don't you start today? Do your shoutouts today. Or it doesn't
Well,
even have to be a store. It can be a player or a YouTube channel that you support as well.
all right. Well, my shout outs, as usual, are the two stores I generally mention, Mythos Games and The Fun Collector. Look them up in Utah if you're in the area. My shout out for the people are my friends that are here in this chat room with me right now. It's great to get together with everybody and talk about the game that we love and what our opinions are on the game so that we can broaden our horizons. And also, honestly, even though I complain about it a lot, thank the Lord that Bushiroad somehow has kept Vanguard alive because even after playing Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh, I acknowledge Magic is a much better card game. But man, I love playing Vanguard. I don't know what it is, this abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Mark, you want
Ah,
to do any shoutouts for whatever you support?
Absolutely. Uh, let's see. Let's shout out Curio Cavern. Um, the store I go to all the time. Shout out to Swords and Spoons. It's a game store that opened up near my house. They did an Extra Life charity thing, and they raised like $2,000 or something for children
that's
in
a
school.
really good name too.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, yeah. Super cool. Um, and shout out to all the disgruntled curmudgeony Vanguard players that are
Hi.
playing the game because we're in too deep, not because we love it anymore.
I told you it's an abusive relationship.
It's the sunk cost fallacy.
Truly, it truly is.
Gabe, I'll go last. You can go.
Well, shout outs to all our typical locals, Curio Cavern as well, Boba Hero in Dulles Town Center. Shout outs to all the OGs out there that's been around the game for a while. Shout outs to all the new players that want to create their own stories to have. Promise you, if you guys are listening and you're fairly new, just know that you're gonna be in for a ride, but it'll be a really fun one.
All right, my turn. So since Mark and Gabe both did shout outs to our local players and our stores, I'll do a different shout out. Shout out to all the Vanguard YouTubers out there. Not just the big ones, but the smaller ones that are trying to build up or try to get more subscribers. Make sure you guys subscribe to Domino Pairs 21 because he is gonna bring back some videos. So definitely subscribe to him. And there's a lot of VTubers that actually do Vanguard content as well. I think Leora is the one I follow currently, but she does some Vanguard content, not a lot, but I like her personally because she's very good with her like how she presents the game. So shout
There's
outs
also
to, yep, and then who's the other one?
Nova.
Yep, Nova as well. So shout out to Nova as well. And then there's a lot of smaller channels, and please, when you guys are supporting other channels, be supportive. Try not to leave any hate comments, if possible, because I mean, you guys can do that to my channel because I don't care. But for some people that
Well,
are doing
well,
these,
Simon.
some people that are doing these contents, it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage for them to post videos. So make sure you guys try to be nice with Vanguard tubers. But that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, man.
All right. See you guys next week. We will be back. Most likely, I do want to talk about set 4 next week
Sure.
in a more deeper content. So stay tuned. Where's the stop recording? All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Sayonara.